And we're live. Hey guys, welcome to Whiskey Charlie, the War Game Chat, our monthly show on YouTube. And we've actually got a couple of shows this week. I'm Mo from Mo's Game Table, and joining me are my co-hosts, everybody's favorite Gimp with the Limp, GimpyGamer Nate Rogers. How's it going, Nate?
Doing great. Nice to be here with all you lovely ladies.
There you go. And we have the War Game Wizard from Oz, Kev Sharp from the Big Board. How's it going, Kev?
I'm doing great. Look, happy face, right?
There you go. And our special guest, Mark Herman. How's it going, Mark?
Very good. As I told you, right now I'm talking to you, and I'm watching this. I'm playing in a game of Battlestar Galactica, so we're going to stream Galactica while we talk about Pacific War, which I think is reasonable for.
Perfect. They both have ships, right?
They do. I have an aircraft carrier that I'm here also, right?
Perfect.
Nice. Well, yeah. Speaking of that, I heard you have a new folio game out called Pacific War. That's what we're going to be talking about today?
Jesus Christ. I think I just dislocated my shoulder.
It is a mighty big box. That is definitely a mighty big box.
I got to tell you something. It actually is a brick of 10 pounds. I swear to God, it really is hard to pick up.
Well, you know what? It should have come out 2 years ago, because when everybody was stuck at home with COVID, it could have been everybody's gym workout. It would have been a great workout.
Get a couple of them, kind of do this,
Get two of them going, right?
Exactly. Do your reps all day.
Like a kettlebell, right?
Exactly. So, so we're going to be talking about Pacific War while we have the non-Cylon. I hear he is now he's not a Cylon.
I'm really bummed about that. I'm Laura Roswell. I'm sitting on the Colonial One, and it turns out I actually am human, so not good. I was hoping for the Cylon thing, but Colonel Ty is a Cylon. He's already on the Resurrection ship, so things are, starting to heat up on the old game. Should be interesting. I'm watching sort of like the.
Are you playing that hidden role Battlestar Galactica game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about now.
Yeah. In fact, hang on. I'll give you a.
Oh,
there you go. Nice. Pays to have multiple monitors.
Oh yeah, I got shit all over the place here tonight.
So everybody's been talking about Pacific War. It's a huge game, literally in multiple ways. Not only is it a big game, but obviously it is a big game physically. It's been a big seller for GMT, and it's been getting out to everybody. Everybody's been showing it off, and I've been really excited about finally getting an updated version, because the original came out in 1986, 87, 85. Okay. So it's been a minute, as the kids today say, since the original came out. But now we've got the newer version. And what are the changes from this version compared to the original?
Well, the first thing is it has the effect of being a first edition, in the sense that, 35 plus years ago, there's no art, there's no mechanicals, just getting all of the original material into a computer of, I actually did it. I had a K Pro 4, which is equivalent of like an M-DOS machine using, I don't know what the hell I think it was Super Cal. I don't know what the hell I was using, but I typed it all out on a machine that doesn't even exist anymore. I have no idea how it even, and the art, of course, and all that stuff doesn't even exist anymore. So it's really a first edition, obviously based on the original. But the things that are really different is, I didn't like the submarine rules in the old game. There was a couple of things in ground combat that didn't, in ground activation that should have worked one way, but and actually my main and I did it over the 2 years of COVID. So this is what I did for 2 years while I was stuck in, like in one spot and couldn't breathe on anybody but my wife and, all this kind of jazz. And, but the thing that I realized was when I was 31, I was out of my mind, is really what I realized. I mean, I don't know who that guy was, but I don't know. He's insane.
I thought
that dude was crazy.
The craziest thing to me about the old version was that you had engagements, battles, scenarios, and campaigns. So you weren't just trying to do the Pacific War; you were trying to do all of it at every scale, and that was one of the attractions too, right? I played the old one quite a bit, so.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, that guy was nuts, but
crazy.
But it was, it's an incredible amount. I mean, so just to give you a quick background. So 11 years ago, okay, so just you might have heard of this guy, Kurt Schilling. Anybody ever hear of that guy?
Sure.
Yeah.
So Kurt Schilling is, and I'm a Yankee fan, but I've always been a Kurt Schilling fan. He's just the most amazing pitcher of almost all time. Forget about anything else he's done. He's just a great pitcher. And he contacts me when he was part of MMP, and he says to me, I want to do Pacific War. So I said to him, just because of the bragging rights, I said, I'll do it, but you personally have to sign the contract. So I have a signed contract from Kurt Schilling, which is
nice.
A one-off. Not many people have that. And I actually won a couple of bets because these Boston Red Sox fans, they say, well, I have a signed contract from Kurt Schilling. They go, and I don't want to say, BS, you're full of, I'll tell you what, I'll give you $1,000 if you could show that to me. So, after making a bunch of money, I didn't take the money, but, after shutting them up, when I showed them, the contract, they were like, wow, Kurt Schilling. I said, I actually don't know Kurt Schilling, but he signed the contract, so that's good. And then MMP, I guess Kurt Schilling went off and did some other stuff. He left MMP. I don't know what happened there. And then the game, wait a minute. We got a skill check here. What's going on?
BSG break.
All right, when I see it's going to come to me in a moment, I'm going to have to make some card play here. So we're going to just get queued up to help the team when it's my turn. I'm just watching the feed. I know I go after. Who do I go after? I go after Jim. Anyway. So this is multi-processing. So anyway, MMP kind of lost interest, and I don't blame them. I mean, they were looking at this ginormous project. They actually did some artwork on it. Mark Mahaffey did a map, and it was kind of cool. Used it for a screensaver for a while. And, but, they make a lot more money from ASL stuff and, all their tactical systems. And it just was languishing. So I talked to Brian. He said, yeah, I'm not really that interested. He said to me at one of the shows. I said, well, then let's just break the contract. And then I was going to forget about it. Then all of a sudden Nuts came along, those French guys, and they said they wanted to do it. So, okay, hang on. I got to make a skill check.
Pretty fitting. They're nuts.
Yeah. Well,
hang on.
I remember seeing videos of some of the art renders being done for the aircraft for Pacific War when it was with Nuts Publishing as I tap dance while he makes his cut.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just just so you guys know, we have the crisis is an unexpected reunion, and we lose morale if we fail. But I just threw in. I'm a human. I just threw in about 5 points that should put us over the top no matter what. So anyway, so then it goes to Nuts, and and then this guy named Olivier Revenue, who's a very very talented artist, does the map and does the counters for the game. And then this guy, Thibaut, I think his name is. Yeah, he's the head, goes radio silent. Email stop, boom, boom, boom. 3 years goes by. Finally, I find somebody to give him a call and say, can you contact me? He goes, oh, I guess you didn't. I guess you would have figured out that we were no longer interested in the project. 3 years. Like I go, my ability to read your mind is not real strong. I'm sorry. I used to be able to do that when I was 16, So now, what is it now? 9 years have gone by, and now I'm actually pissed off, right? It's like I didn't even want to do the goddamn game, but Kurt Schilling talked me into it.
That's a slow burn if it took you 9 years to get pissed off.
Well, it was, I thought people were working on it, but it was a lie. It was just all like, I thought Nuts was working on it and they weren't working on it. So what the hell? So, and I'm a very patient guy, by the way, Nate. I just will tell you,
9 years? Yeah, I'll take your word. It takes me about 9 minutes to get mad.
Yeah, well, when you get old, you get perspective. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I'm getting there. The gray's coming in.
Yeah. Well, I'm gray and not a lot of it, and I'm not. See, Kev looks cool. I mean, Kev is just cool looking. I could never be cool looking like Kev. That's the truth. I am being facetious. So, you got to do what you got to work with what you do.
Yeah. Wait till I pull the wig off.
Oh yeah. Well, somebody. Oh wait, JR Tasty sending me a message, and it says you're up. Okay, hang on 1 second, guys. We're going to quickly I got to remember this order of battle. Receive skill card, so I get draw a hand. 1, 2.
For those who don't know, we are not only talking to Mark, but Mark's also playing a game of Battlestar Galactica. So this is a variety show. And when he comes back, Nate, you have a question for him?
I'm thinking that we should put this up to a group vote on what he does in his game.
Okay, I think I know something. I think that is an awesome idea. So what I'm doing right now is I'm Laura Roslin, and I'm drawing a quorum card to my hand, and I go there and I look at what the quorum card says. Action.
Is this like Secret Hitler, where you can put up a vote to kill someone?
Okay, so
Similar.
I'm rolling the die.
I think this might take.
Hey guys, morale's up by 1.
Cake is the most unusual interview we've ever done.
It's different.
Okay, so I just I successfully got a quorum. So basically, what's happening is we're halfway through. I'm a human. I'm the president, Laura Roslin. I just improved. Hang on. What is this guy? Got to undo a bit. Oops. 1 sec. Hang on. He's saying. Hang on a second.
He's 3-fisting it.
Hey, JR, let me know what I got to do when I got to do it, because I don't understand. I passed my quorum thing.
We're going to have to unwind that.
Okay.
We need to find out what chat he's on, if he's on like Discord or something, and go to it and like rat him out.
Yeah.
He's a human, by the way.
So anyway, let's finish the story, which is very disjointed here. So 9 years. Yeah, it's like how patient you are, Nate. I finally just go to Gene Billings and said, "Look, I want to do this game." He said, "I'll put it up on the P500," and in about 4 hours, it had made the P500. And so and that's what I did for the last 2 years. So now it's out.
Daniel's staying within the theme. He says the Japanese base star is launching a strike.
That unfortunately, tell Daniel that's unfortunately true, actually.
Oh, he's watching both games. Andrew says 9 years to be pissed off. Are you Canadian?
No, I'm from Brooklyn, so usually guys from Brooklyn have a much shorter burn than that.
Very true. Oh. So Nate, you're up. You have a question?
I'm not as familiar with Pacific War because I didn't play the old one or the new one. I'm not trying to insult Mark by saying that, but I have not had a chance.
When the original came out.
Yeah.
Were you born? Were you born when it was first?
Yes, I was born, and I was probably still in diapers when the first one came.
You were in your Pampers.
Yeah. So I muted. Yeah. So Pacific War is. Think of it more like a game system. It could be like it's a operational game system for the war in the Pacific, right? So you've got individual carriers and battleships, and you got submarines, and you got tons of airplanes and ground troops, and every single campaign or battle of the war is covered in the game. The game has 34 scenarios, just to give you a sense of it. It's kind of, there you go. And it's got 10 counter sheets because it's got a hell of a lot of counters, but it's a weird game in the sense that I designed it into 4 levels. So an engagement scenario, like talking about Marines, Wake Island, the first invasion of Wake Island has like 6 pieces, 6 physical counters, and you play out the invasion. So that's how you learn the game, through a lot of these little vignettes of history, and that's how you learn the rules. And the original game came as a program, 1 booklet, but it was programmed. Like you had engagement scenarios, you learn this, you can play engagement scenarios. Then you read a little bit more, you can play the battle scenario. So that's like Coral Sea, Eastern Solomon, Santa Cruz, Midway, of course. That's the kind of Philippine Sea. And tell Daniel Berger, yes. So the point is that then, and that's really kind of like where the game really works. Like if you're going to play in an afternoon, right? You're going to sit down. We used to run tournaments at WBC where you played through all the different scenarios. Chris, okay, it's back a ways. So that's what you end up doing in the game. Now, then you have campaign scenarios. Now, campaign scenarios now multi-month. So the Guadalcanal campaign is 6 months, right? So August of 1942 to February of 1943. And now you're you're building up big operations. You got back and forth fighting, and you're trying to hold on to the island, and you live out the entire. And that's really where the game lives.
Right.
But as an idiot, so you'll need to discard the yellow and green skill cards you drew. All right. So, I'm guessing what I drew.
Kind of reminds me of when I'm talking to my kids and they bounce around the topic a lot.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Okay. So then there's the entire war, and that's the one that was really 200 hours. I don't know. It's just, and remember back in the 1985, there's no computers, right? There's no Vassal. There's no internet. There's no BGG. There's none of the stuff exists, right? It's just you get this game. It's got a gazillion pieces, and you can fight the war. There was a couple of guys who did it, but it was impossible because it takes 6 hours to set it up, and then it takes 200 hours to play it. So unless you've got a basement with a ping pong table, nothing else to do with it, it just didn't get. The game was the campaign games. So now, fast forward 35 years, and it's a little bit of a different ball game. You got Vassal, and you got BGG, and the joke used to be, guys are showing me pictures of. We used to have something called an SASE. Do you ever hear that term before, Nate?
No.
Self-addressed stamped envelope.
Oh, there you go.
So if you wanted a rules question answered, you had to send an SASE,
double spaced,
whatever it was, but it had to be a yes or no. Like you'd send the question, yes or no. And I would get the envelope at Victory Games, and I'd open it up, and it'd say, Nate would like the following answer. So I'd go through and go, yes, no, no. And usually I had to write a little bit more, and then I put it back in the self-addressed envelope that you had already given me with the envelope and the stamp, and I put it in the mail, and you get your thing back. And guys are showing me from 35 years ago, they kept every single letter that they sent me, and I returned it. So that's the world that this was. So this is like a throwback to another era, when dinosaurs walked the earth and, and all this kind of stuff. No internet, no cell phones, there were cell phones sort of, but definitely no internet to speak of, no World Wide Web, no BGG, no nothing. No, even Consum World didn't exist then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sounds like a real pain in the ass way to handle errata.
That's
one question at a time.
Snail mail errata. Yeah, well, and then we would put out errata sheets periodically, and they were made, and if you sent me a letter and we had these errata sheets printed up, I would both answer your questions and stuff an errata sheet into your envelope, and you get that also,
So
that was like free content. That was one of the first free content things that you could get from wargaming.
Free DLC.
Yeah, and
it's a free download, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was a different world. It just was a different world. I was 31. I had a 2-year-old sitting next to me while I designed the game. Who's now 37. And has her own daughter. And they're not telling me, but I think she's also pregnant again. So this is what goes on over 35 years. A whole lifetime goes by. So now, did I answer your question, Nate?
I've got so many other questions about the game. When you're talking about the campaign game now, all right, so at the scale we're talking about, something like Guadalcanal would only take up like 2 or 3 hexes, right?
Well, au contraire, sir. So Guadalcanal is 1 hex, right? Just to be clear.
So how can you have a campaign game for a single hex?
Wait. Hang on. Slow down. Just love me,
dice roll and done.
Love me tender, love me true. Okay, hang on. So, hang on. Hang on. Oh God, I just dislocated my shoulder.
Don't hurt him.
I dislocated my shoulder.
Grab map A.
I'm gonna get the paper map. So,
nothing like Kev telling the designer of the game what to grab.
Well, I didn't want him to break his back trying to pull out the map.
Well, you got a map like this, right, Kev? You see that, Nate?
Yeah.
Guadalcanal is there-ish. However, the Americans are over here. Rebol, I got to do it this way. I can't do it. Rebol is up here. Truck is over here. So the campaign is these forces are all fighting into a cauldron called Guadalcanal, but they're coming from all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
so
I see what you're saying.
So while Guadalcanal's 1 hex, while Guadalcanal's maybe 1 hex, it's the center of all the things you ever read about in a book, that the carriers are sorting out a truck to stop, the blow of Guadalcanal. The Americans get intelligence and they send their guys to stop them, and they fight the Battle of Eastern Solomons, and they'd stop them from blowing up Henderson Field. And then later on, the Battle of Santa Cruz and the naval battle of Guadalcanal, and all the offensives in the Tokyo Express and putting reinforcements into the island. And all that stuff is in the campaign game.
Now, I was reading up on it before we started this video, and I gotta say, I do like the idea of bidding points for the initiative, and that way, one side, whoever wins it's planning their attack, and they are gonna do whatever they're gonna do, and the other side has to react to what the offensive side has planned. I think that is a good system. It would be interesting to try, but definitely not solitaire friendly, I would say.
No, in fact, I rated it 2. It really shines as a hidden game. It's a hidden information game. In the game, there is a few solitaire rules, but hang on. What is J.R. Tracy asking me to do now? You need to vote on your pending incarceration, but you get to vote. Wait, I'm going to say, put me in jail.
Put me in jail. I'm a Cylon.
It depends on who's in jail with him. That hot blonde Cylon, that wouldn't be too bad.
This is true. This is true.
JR. I said, put me in jail. That makes it easier for me to do the interview.
Yeah.
And by the way, Nate, this is a very important point. The best way, and this is a true statement, one of the play test groups for Pacific War, when we did it, were guys that were in prison.
Captive audience, literally.
Yeah.
They had we didn't know how they handled rules questions, but we do know that they had the time.
That's true. That is true. That is actually a good way of doing it.
Who were in prison? I'm assuming a federal prison that had a little bit of room in their cell.
It's been a long time, Kev. I just know that the guy was in jail for like life or something. Campo reminds you, New York City bail reform does not extend to bail. Sorry, sounds good.
Nowadays, though, the inmates would be able to play Vassal because they all have like internet and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I did get. In fact, by the way, at SPI, Atlantic Wall and Terrible Swiss Sword were played by guys in prison.
Speaking of SPI, Leslie Davis says, "How did the original Pacific War game differ from SPI's War in the Pacific? Are they siblings?"
No, that's an interview in of itself.
Yes,
that was a. That's who even did War in the Pacific. I don't even remember. I remember play testing it, but I don't remember who actually was the designer. It wasn't Berg. It might have been Irad Hardy, but I'm not sure. I have to go look at the game. But
he gave Daniel an idea.
That's right. There you go. Daniel got some ideas now.
Well, the Pacific Theater would be the hardest area. I mean, of all the war game areas to cover, it's always the hardest, and it's always some abstract game concept whoever the designer is has come up with, and they're all relatively different. I mean, everyone tries something different, but it's such a vast area. There's so much going on in it that no one real single rule system has ever seemed to work quite perfectly when it comes to that area. Right. It all gets over convoluted.
Well, I guess I would offer that. And this is not my view. Wait, JR, looks like you have some friends. So apparently, even though I didn't even speak at my own trial, they didn't want me in jail. God, I was hoping to go to jail, actually. Chris. Okay,
so I was Irad and Ed Curran and Jim.
Yeah, it was Irad. And I will tell you that Pacific War, I don't think was ever play tested beyond a couple of counters. It was, Irad was a busy man. May he rest in peace. But Ed Curran probably did most of the work at that point, because Irad was head of R&D. I show Curran, Dunnigan, Hardy, and Walzak. Oh, it would have been Curran and Walzak were good friends. They probably did it.
Yeah.
And John said, "Hey, John, good to see you out there, buddy."
I think the new release, Mark, borrows a lot from your Pacific War, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, it's got a lot of concepts in there that remind me of your system. The combat stuff.
Anyway,
wasn't really good.
Nate, I will say that again. My opinion, most people have said to me over the years, and again, this is a sample size of like 100 people over 35 years, so that doesn't count like much. They always felt it was the definitive Pacific War game. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's Kev, you might have a view. I don't know, but it does cover the waterfront. I will tell you that.
God, that's cover the waterfront. That's for sure. Yeah.
Maybe I should reevaluate my view then. I hadn't given it a whole lot of attention because of the lower solitaire rating. Because solitaire all my war games.
Yeah.
But if it's the definitive edition, I mean, I might have to give it a check because I mean the Pacific Theater. That's my area. That's my jam.
Oh, okay, well then
I've always
you got to try it.
I mean,
and I'll tell you what,
I'm a Marine.
Nate, if you check it out, I will get online and we can walk you through it if you get any problems.
Okay, I've got Vassal. We'll download the module. We'll give it a check. See how it works out.
Cool.
Dune is up.
And it's got lots of scenarios that are super short that you can test out and play, and there's some that are 15, 20 minutes long.
But going to the question you asked me, like what is different, and I know Kev, you made some comments about this, so I think it's worth a moment of conversation.
Yeah.
The original rule book, as I told you, had this 4 sections, right? Here's the engagement scenario, then you learn some more rules. It's a program rule booklet, right? You've all seen those before. Worked great. A lot of people it was a very complicated game, and people in that era, 1985, were able to. No, John, I didn't call you Ken. I was talking to Kev. Anyway, in that era, it worked out really well. Now, the problem with that booklet was once you knew how to play, even I couldn't find all the things. It was a bitch to find a rule once you knew how to play because it was all in pieces, right? That rule extended as a thread through 4 things. There's no Vassal. There's no hyperlinked, PDF file. There's none of that crap. It's just a rule booklet. And so when I did this version, I basically said, I want to have a set of rules, which is soup to nuts, properly organized and index all the rules so I can find it. And I got to be honest with you, this guy, Tom Wilkinson, who Kai Jensen's friend, shows up, and this guy does an index. I have been answering rules questions. I find every rule in about 8 seconds because of the index. The index is amazing. So I got this rule booklet, but then I said, but I don't want to lose this program learning thing because that was really a thing, especially for a game this complex. So I broke the rules into, there's an engagement rule book. So literally you get the game, you take out see Kev's pulling it, I have it here, but you have this engagement rule book. And if you and it's not like nothing to read, by the way, but once you have that, you can play 8 scenarios right off the bat, right? And you don't need anything else and all that. And then you're ready to progress. And then, by the way, you give that to a friend because you don't need it anymore. Then you got the battle scenario booklet, which is probably the place where a lot of people won't go past. So you got a booklet that just plays, Coral Sea, Midway, Eastern Solomons, blah, 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 right? So now you got this booklet. And all it does is add one more section of rules. And now you got that to play. Now, if you lose your mind and you want to go to campaigns, you got the core rule booklet. You got all the rules. You play through it. It tells you what's in the strategic and what's not. Okay, so somebody's trying to shoot. We got 2 base stars, by the way, in front of Galactica, and there are Cylons all over the place at the moment. This doesn't look good.
Protect Arizona.
Oh yeah, we're definitely this is Eastern Solomons, and it's not looking good, boys. It's not looking good. Anyway, was it 7? Okay, so they're trying to shoot down raiders at this point in time for that assault game. Okay, so. That was how I kept the program thing back in it and so that was my compromise, but I felt it worked out. Now, are there a couple extras? I wanted to keep all the battle cycle stuff, even if it's in the engagement. I wanted you to have all the battle cycle stuff in one place, period. Even though there's a couple, like I don't think you do demolition or a couple of things are not done in the battle scenarios, but I figured people could sort that out without too much trouble. But maybe I was wrong. Who knows? I always assume too much. And then, the core rules are there, which has everything. And that's really, and you could play the whole game and the engagement scenarios just from the core rules. You just have to know, and there's a good strategic display that shows you which phases you actually play in each of the different levels. So you don't have to remember that. There's a track that you can just see, they're blacked out if they're not in that level of scenario. So that I find that to be, and that's what I use when I play the game, because I can't remember that many goddamn phases. So, I move a little marker along, and also I'm always walking away from it, coming back, and I'm going, okay, where was I? Now, the solitaire piece, I had to create a couple of solitaire rules, because when I was playtesting, and there's some bidding, right? So how do you bid against yourself usefully, right? That would be hard. So I actually created a table when I was playtesting it, and I just left that in the game so people can play with what I played with 35 years ago. There was nothing to change. So you get a little bit of tension on, here's my bid, and you roll a die, and you see if you were outbid by the by the chart. It's not even a bot. Right. Now, if anybody wants to build a bot, good luck. 4 space near moves you or a silent to. Oh, look at that. So we now have our second Cylon has just shown up, who is Apollo is a Cylon. That's sad. And he was out in space somewhere, and he's doing bad things to us right now.
Well, that's kind of his job, so he's doing the right thing.
Yeah. Well, so now we've got.
Show me on the battle store where the bad Cylon touched you.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
No.
So I will say, I think you got something right.
Well, I'll say about the rules that I like what you're talking about as far as like learning as you play and like building up. But the thing I think you lose in that is the ability to have all the rules centrally located. Like all the sea battle rules are here, all the air battle rules are here.
Oh no, that you do get that. That is the core rule booklet.
So
the core rule booklet is exactly what you just described. You do have a rule book that has everything in one spot.
So you've got one that has everything, and then you have one that you learn from.
That's this guy.
So you got that. You have that. There is not one word in the game that isn't in that booklet in the right place.
And then you have this guy and one other, which is on my game table.
You know what it is? It's a war about the Pacific, right? So if you think about like a campaign being like Guadalcanal and all the things that are going on around it at Buna and Gazmata and Caviang and Truk and all that stuff, and all the searches and over the Coral Sea, that is a campaign. But when you play the war, the strategic scenarios, there's the entire strategic bombers, submarine campaign against merchant ships. All of that stuff gets layered in on top of it, and that's what's not in the other two booklets.
Okay, so that's not in there unless you're playing the higher level, larger size campaign aspects of it.
Yeah, when you're playing a campaign, the command points, which is a big piece of it, is given to you as a schedule for the campaign scenario. In the strategic scenario, how many campaign points you get is a calculation based on a whole lot of decisions with submarines and how many ships got sunk and are your torpedoes defective and all that kind of nonsense. And then eventually B-29 show up and start burning Japan to the ground. That affects how many command points. That affects how many command points you're going to actually have. But now you got the whole war, so you got to distribute them to different HQs, and you got all that stuff going on. Now it is actually your turn. Hang on 1 second. So we're going to quickly draw skill cards. Draw a hand. I've got JR is texting me in real time as I am doing this.
So I'm going to go through some while you're doing your BSG. I'm going to go through some commentary from the chat.
Go for it.
So Daniel's saying, I love the separate rule books and how they're structured. And John is saying that about the Ken thing. He says, you mistook me for Ken T when we met at 2019 WBC. And yes, you can see there is a resemblance between him and Ken, except Ken's got glasses.
That's the one we were at, isn't it, Mo? 2019? Was it 2018?
I think it was 2018, yeah. And John's showing up. John Longshore joined us. Achilles, hey.
And Kabuki is here.
Kabuki's here.
Yeah.
Chad's here.
Gareth is
got everybody. Yeah.
Got the whole crew.
And then Gareth, who's making a comment, he says, if I buy this version of Pacific War, it would be the third time I have bought it. Never have done that with any other game. It's the power of the Herman.
Well, first off, who wrote that? Who said that?
That was Gareth.
Well, tell Gareth, I can tell you myself, I'm live. First off, thank you very much. I got to tell you, I've been shown a lot of kindness by a lot of people over a lot of years, so I only get to do what I want to do because people buy my games. So thank you very much. That's all I can say. Hang on. So I'm going to let everybody vote. Oh, we're not going to do that. So we're going to have to go for the water shortage. So I just drew two. So I just drew two crisis cards. So we're now under attack. And if I pay one of those cards, I get to put it on the bottom of the deck. Another base star and 14 million Cylon show up, which I don't. And since I'm human, that's not a good idea. If I was Cylon, that would be the one I picked. So we're not going to go with that card. So that goes at the bottom of the deck. And we're now going to play the other one. Hang on. President chooses, and then the current player. Okay, so I'm going to give up 5 cards. So I'm going to go right here. Watch this. 1, 2.
That was loud.
3. That wasn't me.
Sorry,
that was Nate.
I'll mute when I get my little water bottle out. I'll tell you what, I love this thing, man. Water bottle that's got the flavor stuff like put in the top of it.
You got a flavored sippy cup.
Yeah, it's a man-sized flavored sippy cup. I swear. You got a little dial there at the top of it. You can dial in how much of the little flavor you want. They're called circles. CIRKUL. My wife actually got it for me. Love these things.
You're an unusual person, Nate.
Yes,
dude. I had to cut out tea. I can't have soda. I can't have anything. I'm ordered by the doctor to drink nothing but water.
Wow.
Well, that's not the worst thing in the world.
I'll talk about this later when we're off camera.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Achilles says, I'm very interested in this. I've been trying to decide between this game and World War III by Compass for my big game purchase for the quarter. So what I would say is buy both.
Why World War III?
Wow. That's an endorsement right there.
Yeah, just go for World War III. Then I don't have to. I love the fact that then if you're mad, you won't be mad at me. That's all I figure. we sold plenty. I don't care. The good news is I don't do this for anybody but myself now. So if you like the game, that's great. But
that's great, right?
Yeah. But I can't. There was one thing which is I find interesting, and I'll let you tee this up, Mo. We were talking about, as I was saying, I used to teach standards, and operations research to graduate students at Columbia University in the School of Engineering. And, so like I said, there was this standard called Six Sigma. Now I'm wearing a shirt that says 2 Sigma, by the way, which is an investment company. But Pacific War, everybody's, gamers get very emotional. That's just, we're getting, a lot of us are getting, especially the Hex guys are getting really old, they're getting really cranky. I mean, it's like, it's, maybe between, losing your hair and losing your teeth, you just get upset. I don't know. But as it turns out, if you add up all of the, everybody goes, oh, there's so much errata. Oh my God. Yeah. The answer is that there's 2,800 counters. There are 28 of them, which are have one piece of information incorrect, and more importantly, there's 28,000 pieces of information. So I'm at an error rate of like 0.1% on the counters. That's, you can call it what you want, but that's like a 5 Sigma answer in manufacturing, which is way past what you get for a refrigerator. Okay, and you buy those for a lot more money. There in the scenario booklet, there's 150,000 conservatively piece of information. I blew 50 of them, 50 out of 150,000. So that's a 0.3 of a 1% error rate. These are just real numbers. I mean, you can say what you want. And in the rules, it's like there are 60,000 words of rules, and I think there's like 12 words that I'm changing, which is doesn't even move the needle. So when people tell me like it's a hot mess and all this, I go, okay, I understand that you feel bad that it, whatever it is, but get real. Just get yourself real, man. Yeah. It isn't true.
Right. Well, I think there's.
And then on top of that, but let me just say, however, I stand by everything I've ever done. So number one, we're going to put out a PDF. Once everything settles down, and somewhere in the summer, there'll be a PDF. It'll be perfect, right? Everything will be absolutely perfect. You can print it out, whatever. Same thing for the rules, although there won't be much to change in the rules. And then the counters, one, McGowan's going to put him in C3I, and people go, well, I'm not buying another thing. Well, okay, I got that. But I'm talking to GMT. I think there's something coming along, but I can't promise anything. But everybody's going to get a perfect copy. But of the 28 counters, right, that are in the game that are mistakes, you can put them in a bag, put them in the box, and you can play the campaign game from, December 41 to July of 1945, and you will never need those counters. So they have no effect on play. But I understand people want it perfect, but it doesn't mean anything. It's just extra. A couple of the air units got messed up, and to be fair, it wasn't my fault. But that's how life is sometimes, and I'm the guy in charge, so I take the heat. But 28 counters, come on.
Yeah.
And they don't affect play, so I'm going like, okay.
Well, when you say messed up, how messed up are you talking about? You talk about like off cut, or it's got the wrong number on it?
One piece of information.
One number, like on one of the destroyers, it's spelled Parker, not Porter. Okay, the numbers are fine, but
Yeah, I think that thread, these threads on BGG tend to sort of feed on themselves, right? So there's an element of, well, certainly there's the land of unmet expectations and the land of reality, and there's lots of folks that live in the land of unmet expectations and expect you, because you have a reputation. You may not know this, I think you do, but a lot of people hold you up on a pedestal as the god of game design, right? No, hang on, just hear me out. And this is a compliment, so take this the right way. Right?
Mark doesn't like these things.
And you like, I've played a lot of your games, and of late they have been like onions. They're simpler and they're subtle, and there's lots of layers to them, and lots of thinking that needs to go in. But they're simple games, and you abstract out but keep the flavor, right? This harkens back to the old days of the big monster games, and it's a beast. And unfortunately, I'll say, shit happens, right? So I get it, right? There's mistakes, but I think folks here have got a little uptight about it, and I think part of it's your fault because they have this vision of you not making mistakes, right? So that's on you. But
well, Kev, when you said that, I thought you were channeling my wife, because anything that goes wrong, it's my fault. So I got that part. Okay, right. That I understand.
But so if I was going to be the counterpoint to your commentary on Six Sigma and stuff like that, if we take out all the information counters, which are kind of like generic, right? 760 of those. A math guy is gonna go, well, hang on a sec, it's a higher error rate than what you're talking about with the counters. But like you said, even if it is a higher error rate, it doesn't matter, right? He is human. So I don't think the counters that are broken or in error aren't.
What number? Yeah, they're a number off or a letter off. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, so it's not a big deal. There's a lot of the aircraft. I think it's 22 counters or 28 counters, like you said, or whatever it is. So out of the, what is it? Because I was adding them up. I was trying to look and think, well, is it a big deal? I was trying to do, because I wanted to do the math too, right? But if you looked at just the actual ship, the actual ship counters, which I think was where most of the errors were, or was the aircraft too? It was aircraft as well, right?
Yeah, it was the aircraft.
So I don't see it as being material, as my point. But I think the fact that you're owning it and saying, hey, we're gonna fix it. It's a monster game. We all should be okay with that. It's more how people then react to that, right? I think then that's their problem, that's their emotions and their issue. So the things I'm excited about for the game is that you fix the sub rules. It's easier to understand the flow of time and how operations work when you get into the more substantial parts of the game. Everything else still works really well in the game. So I'm not upset about it, about what I'm seeing.
Well, I'd be happy actually. It's like Christmas. I've been playing.
Yeah, look, it's, and I think people got their hopes up about it. Maybe overly so, because they expect it to be perfect. Because it's,
I think I don't know, because it's a matters to me. Getting a couple of components. Okay, and remember something. It gets touched by a lot of people. So I approve something. Somebody sends in a file that's one short of what I approve, but I don't see it at that point. Or somebody in China does, takes Iwo Jima off the map. Nobody asked me about it. They said, Mark, should we take Iwo Jima off the map? Nate, I was saying to myself, I want to piss off Nate more than anything in my whole life, and I want Iwo Jima off the map so Nate will be pissed off.
Right.
You think that is something I would do? It's just like, it's insanity. But like I said, it gets touched by it went halfway across. It had to go across the Pacific to become Pacific War to come back from the Pacific.
Right.
And shit goes on in China that I have no effect on. And
right. Well,
the guy had COVID as he was cutting them. But as Nate says, the counters are cut beautifully. I mean, front and back, and the physical quality of all the production is just top rate.
I mean, you look how thick those bad boys are. They're
solid pieces. It's a solid thing. And and like I said, the 28 counters have zero impact on play.
Right.
So, and that includes playing the whole war. So what am I going to do? But we will fix it. And as I said, whatever errors, I've published all the small minor corrections that are in the scenario booklet. There's 34 scenarios, 150,000 lines of information. Right. Okay, we got a couple wrong. I think it was like maybe 50, not even 50 mistakes, but they're not major. And you just line in, line out, whatever. How many counter trays? I use 6.
Yeah. Right.
And, but what I come back to is the people who are moaning about it, they're not playing it. So I don't really, I only want to talk to people who are playing the game.
Yep.
If you're just going to put it on a shelf and admire and say, oh, it's perfect and, whatever, I don't know.
This goes to that point what Leslie said. Game buyers are even more insane than game designers. They complain for 200 hours, but then they play the game for 2 hours a year.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I also don't think, Mark, a lot of the buyers really understand the entire life cycle of game development. That's one of the reasons why I've tried to do these interviews with people that talk through how did you come up with the idea, how did you design the rules, what went into the map, why did you choose the topic, and all that sort of stuff, and try and get people to understand, well, what's the production process, what's the ideation exercise, how did you come up with the concepts, and show people that there's a lot more to it than just cutting square counters and making the rule book perfect. So,
yeah. Well, first off, just to be clear, the rule booklet has the word file of the final one is 60,000 words, which is the length of a book. Mm-hmm. And what I'm more amused about is, if I had a science fiction book, which like an Foundation trilogy, right? Volume 1 is less than 60,000 words. Right. So you read a book, and it's a science fiction book, so you absorb it, right? But this is 60,000 words of interrelated concepts and principles and rules, and the fact that like 3 days out, the game's out, people are going, whatever they're saying, how could you have read 60,000 words and understood them? How's that possible?
Right.
So I don't know that they're reading very carefully, because most of the rules questions I've been getting, all I've been doing is, saying, the header, 20.3.1.2b, here's the 4 words. And I'm answering questions, but I'm answering them from the rules. I'm not rewriting the rules.
Well,
and I can't help that. I mean, everybody's got, it's a 9 complexity game.
Yeah. I don't envy any game designer or developer that's supporting customers on BGG or Consim World or anywhere, because today it's default. I'm going to go ask without actually stopping to think about the rules.
Part that's different. See, going back to 1985
with the letter, right?
So Nate, when you were in diapers, and you were obviously a very quick kid, so you could have written me a letter then while you were crawling around the floor.
Yep.
So Nate would have gotten his copy of Pacific War, and he'd look at that, and of course he's a genius, so he's reading this thing. He goes, "Oh, I got a question." But before I'm going to go write a letter and get an envelope and get a stamp, and I got to get 2 envelopes and 2 stamps, because I got to put one inside the other one, and I got to self-address it, and I got to write my questions out, and I don't have a typewriter because I'm writing in crayon, because you're a little young, so you got to write in crayon, making some pictures. You're not going to send that letter until you really kind of read the rules and really looked it over, because it's a pain in the ass, right? That there was a barrier to, that's not good. Where things are heating up on things are not going well for the Galactica boys. We're under a major attack, and I don't think we're getting any leverage. And there's 3 Cylons, by the way, so there's only like 4 of us left, 3 of us left who are not sidelines, and I'm talking to you. So these 2 guys are on their own. They're screwed. Anyway, and so my point is that now the barrier to entry is I'm online. I go, oh, what about this? And then if I don't, and I actually went to play golf on Friday. I played golf on Friday, and I go to the course, right? And I played golf, right? It was a nice day. It was cold, but it was a nice day. We played golf. I get home, and there's like all of these messages, and people are going, how come you haven't answered my question yet?
Oh my
I was
God.
playing golf. I actually left my house, and I picked up my golf clubs. I had a really good time. And now you're mad because I didn't answer within 3 or 4 minutes. I'm going, oh, okay.
Well, that's the problem. We're now the instant satisfaction and gratification generation, or people, I should say, society.
Society, because some of these people are not young people.
No, true. And that's the problem is people will jump on a thing. And how many, people in the chat can chime in as well. How many people, I'm going to raise my hand, have had a question on a rule and we're ready to go to BGG and ask it or shoot someone a message and say, how is this? And then you read about 4 more paragraphs down or 2 more pages and you go, oh, there's my answer. We're all guilty of it. We're all guilty of it. So
I've actually gone into BGG because I couldn't find an answer, written the question, gone back and looked and thought, well, it's been 2 hours and no one's answered my question. I better go and reread the rules again. And then I go, oh, I'm a dumbass. There it is. So then I rush back to BGG and delete the question because you don't
delete it before anybody sees it.
I'll give you a great example, by the way. Again, I don't. First off, I want to say these people are people playing the game and supporting it. I honor that, right? So we're good.
Sure.
But and the guy, by the way, who wrote this is a good guy. So I don't want to, it's a good guy, and he writes, "Hey Mark, and he kind of goes through this whole long analysis about how submarines can get 28,000 shots on the carrier and it sinks it every time." So then I go, "Hey, in that rule here, you see the sentence where you can only shoot at a ship once, not the 38 times he came out." And he goes, "Oh yeah." So that's a reasonable response, right? He missed a sentence, but it was a key sentence, right? Given his whole, but he wrote this long analysis. I mean, it was like, this is not right, blah, 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 blah. And I said, if I had done it that way, I would agree with you. But, here's this one sentence that says you can't do any of that. And then he goes, okay, now somebody who doesn't know what's going on comes onto that and goes, oh my God, look at it. You can sink carriers and with machine guns or something. And I'm going well, you didn't see the answer. It's like, but to be fair, it was a fair question. If you missed that sentence, and that's the other thing, it's 60,000 words. You can't absorb it that quickly. No. And I just think that people would be better served if they would, before they get on and just blast out stuff, read a couple of sections again, just get a cup of coffee or a glass of scotch, kind of sit back, chill and just kind of look at the rule book a little bit more. Yeah, that would help you, but I'm happy to answer them. I just,
we played, in the old version, we played the Guadalcanal campaign a handful of times. And I was playing with a guy who's literally a lawyer. So he was a trial lawyer. And so his digging into the rules and parsing the rules and going backwards and forwards and constructing arguments for why he could or couldn't do certain things drove me insane, right? And I would just try and apply common sense, having some modest amount of exposure to a few more different systems than him. But we would spend a lot of time just in the rule book because of the structure of the rule book. In fact, you had so many weavings, right? So the new rule books are much, much better and much cleaner. And I think they'll cut out a lot of that. But folks get spun up around the axle on stuff too easy is my point about it, I think.
Yeah. And I will be honest with you, Kev, you're exactly right. But I also go, look what you're dealing with, right? So when I did Fort Sumter, 2018, so that's right. 4 years ago, all the war game guys, these are my good friends, Bruce Garrick and, really solid gamers I played with, good friends. And Garrick was mad at me that I did Fort Sumter. He's a great guy. I love him. Neurosurgeon, great gamer, reviewer, very thoughtful guy, makes videos, is smart as hell. And he's all mad at me for Fort Sumter. And I said, I didn't design it for you. My wife plays Fort Sumter. Her girlfriend, you ought to see, by the way, I call it there's like this, my wife's Italian. She's got these 2 Italian girlfriends. And they tested Fort Sumter. I got to tell you, Fort Sumter played by those women looks more like hand-to-hand combat in World War I.
Yeah, they played it in San Diego.
People tell me it's not a war game. You haven't played with the Italian girls. Okay?
The wives were playing it in San Diego
okay.
when you had the prototype, and it was pretty cutthroat.
Hang on, I got to look.
Well, while he's doing that, one thing I wanted to kind of spin off on that was we're going to be talking about this in a future Whiskey Charlie as well, but and it'll probably be a multi-episode chat, I think, because Kev and I have talked about this. I know Nate and I have talked about this at times, but one of the things that is really lacking in the game community is understanding of the design. Well, I should say the development and production process, because like we were talking about it earlier, Mark and I, and people think it's a very linear progression. It's not. It's like literally take some spaghetti in your hand, throw it against the wall, and it's all over the place. That's kind of how development and production works. There's a lot of streams. Well, what I mean is there's a lot of streams going in different directions, and production is not, always linear. It kind of goes, there's things that do pop up along the way. And as you were saying before, Mark, you may send off certain files to China and they may change them, and that's how an error can be introduced. There's a lot of little gotchas along the way that can happen. So it's not as clear cut and dried as a lot of people may think.
Yeah. I mean, so I started my career being Jim Dunnigan's developer, back in 1976 in Irad Hardy. That's how I started. And Dunnigan would give me sometimes 3 pieces of. I remember Next War, right? You've seen Next War. It's a big, gigantic box for 400 billion pages of rules. It says purple and yellow count. Skill check to Spring Scott. Hang on, let me just.
The whole chat.
Scotty, it's Mark. I love you, and I gave you all the help you can get. He said, I appreciate it. Yeah, there's 3 humans, by the way, and one of them's in jail. So we're trying to spring him out of the brig right now. So
there you go.
I threw a lot of energy at trying to get Scotty out of the jail because we're going to lose otherwise. Anyway, the point being is that I got 3 pages from Dunnigan I got 3 handwritten pages, CRT, 2 pages. Here's an atlas. Go get a map. So that's like sort of the bare bones design to developer side of the world. At this point in my life, I am my own designer and developer, but what I always need, and I did it in this case, by the way, Kev, I get a rules writer. In other words, I write the rules. I can't design a game without writing all the rules. It doesn't. That's my design method. I'm even writing a book about it right now. So my design method is I write the whole game out. It's not a game to me until I have a full set of rules and I got a map and got pieces. I can hand it to somebody. Now, what the reality is that what makes sense to me may not make sense to somebody else, and so I've been using Kai Jensen, who's we all know who Kai is, and she's great professional rules writer. So she wrote. I gave her the manuscript that I had done, for Nuts. When I handed in the game that they forgot about me for 3 years, I gave that to her, and she rewrote it from scratch. Okay, so this is Kai Jensen's set of rules. And then Kai and I, during COVID, we Zoomed. Well, she's in California. I'm here anyway, but we Zoomed a number of times. Sometimes some of our meetings went 3 hours on Zoom, going over, line by line, And Kai's writing style, which is very much mine, is it's a positive writing style, right? It says, this is what you can do. So give you an example. In the hidden information rules, right? This is it's a hidden information game. It's 1 sentence. Here's what has to be on the map. Everything else doesn't have to be on the map. It's at your discretion. 1 sentence. Then I've gotten 48. Well, what about dun, 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 dun? I come back and I go, look, here's the sentence. Information counters have to be on the map. That's the force markers. Everything else doesn't have to be on the map.
Right.
I don't know how else to say that. So you can come up with as many opportunities to, well, what about this? What about that? The answer is it's Leslie. Is that Frank? Is that Frank Davis?
Frank.
Leslie Davis.
So you're lucky Dunnigan gave me 2 pages for my first development project.
No, but the only Davis I know is Frank Davis, who I did. Hey, Leslie, is your name Frank Davis once in a long time ago? Wait, hang on. Scott's out. Hey, we broke the guy out of the brig.
Nice.
Anyway, yes. Hi, Mark. Oh, hi, Frank. I'm sorry. So it's funny. My middle name's Leslie. So Leslie. So Frank, good to hear from you. Yeah, Frank and I did 3 games together, I think, and I think Frank is still having PTSD over the experience.
So much so that he registered.
So I got to tell you a Frank Davis story, by the way. So Frank's on. Frank, you're here. You can validate. So one day, I'm at SPI, and Dunnigan walks in the office. You have to know Jim Dunnigan was not a guy with a lot of like verbiage, right? So he walks in. He goes, "Mark, congratulations, you're the new SPI rules editor," and he walks away. The hell is this? What? I had been there like a week or something. I was like, so I walk. His office was like 3 doors down. So I follow him. And I say, "Hey, Frank, Jim, can I just ask you like 2 questions?" He goes, "Sure, go ahead." I go, "What's a rules editor?" And 2, who's the rules editor now? Is this like a new job? He goes, "Oh no, Frank's the rules editor, and you're taking over for him." Oh, so go see him. He'll help you. So I get down to Frank's office, and I see Frank, and and Frank goes, "Oh, let me give you the backlog of rules questions." Now I understand. So Frank has a 4-drawer file cabinet. He opens up the bottom drawer, and it's like, imagine as many envelopes. These are the SASEs, by the way, Nate. The self-addressed envelopes stuffed in the bottom, like a brick of paper, is envelopes in the bottom drawer. Then he opens up the one above that one. Same situation. The 3rd drawer, so there's 3 drawers where somebody has like sat on it to jam every freaking envelope you can into the drawer of a file cabinet. And he must have used the top one for his own files. But the bottom 3, so I go, "Oh, I'll be right back." So I go in the back room and I get a garbage bag. I walk in his office and we shovel all of these envelopes out of so the first thing I do as a rules editor is we take all the envelopes out of the file cabinet and put them in a bag. So now I got a bag, look like Santa Claus. And then I'm not as slow as I look. So I put them in my office. I go to Jim. "Hey, Jim, I'm happy to be the rules editor, but I could just use a little bit of help." And it happened to be Tuesday, which is R&D meeting day. I just need a little bit of help getting rid of the backlog. I don't tell him what's going on in the bag. So he goes, "No problem. At the end of the meeting, you bring in what the backlog is. We'll hand them out. We'll do them, and we'll call it a day." Not a problem. So we go to the R&D meeting, and it's now like about 5:00 in the afternoon, so Jim goes, "Okay, meeting's over, but before we go, Mark just wants to hand out a couple of backlog of rules questions that you guys need to do, and he wants them done now so that they can all go out. We'll be all caught up." And everybody goes, "Okay, no problem." So I go to my office, and I go on the table, and I go, "Oh." And it's like, this mountain of letters sitting in the middle of the conference table at SPI. And of course, everybody's like, and then of course, everybody turns. So Frank, this is the part where you come in. Everybody looks at Frank and goes, and I remember Irad Hardy going, "Frank, what the hell have you been doing?" So then, and by the way, Berg does, I think we were there for 3 or 4 hours. 4 hours of Berg stand-up as we're answering rules questions. It was freaking glorious. We call him pizza, food's showing up. We're answering, and Berg goes, "Look what this idiot just wrote. Look at his crap. This guy's an idiot." He's just going on and on and on. And we answer all the rules questions. I literally couldn't mail them in the building. I put them all back in the garbage bag and went down to the post office and actually put them directly into the post office because that's how many there were. And then I was caught up. And then of course, this is me now. I had a checklist. If I got a rules question for your game, here's my most beloved. I pitched him the last pitch. And yep, that is a true statement. Guy, Tom Shaw, by the way, was a professional baseball player, and that little sucker could run like nobody's business. And Frank, everything I just told you, You don't remember the collaboration? We did World War One module. There's actually a scene in a cartoon for the Village Voice that we're in together, and we did.
Well,
Red
remember,
Sun
Mark, you
Rising.
did say he had PTSD from it.
I think he did, and then we had Red Sun Rising, and there was a third one. Well, at least those two, but I think there's a third one. I'll remember it anyway. So then after that, I get a rules question, and right, Nate, I get my SASD, and I go, oh, it's a Berg Terribles with Sword question. So I had a checklist. I go to Berg. Here's your thing, and I'd say you owe me the answer, and then I would bug him. I had a list, right? I said, Berg, you owe me 3 goddamn. He goes, and he'd yell at me. He always yelled at me. I yelled at him back, and then he'd give me the letters, and I mail them. So we actually got the thing under control after that. But so I understand how to answer rules questions. I mean, been doing it a long time.
Long time. Good story.
Well, here's one from Tom. He says, Mark, when you design your games, do you get a lot of inspiration from chess?
No, but I do love chess.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that's interesting, I wrote this in one of my Cleo's corners. One of the more interesting things that happens in game design, and chess is a good example of it, how you try to create it. Wait, what are we saying here? Now is your turn again. Hang on 1 second, boys. I got to get some cards, so I got to take 2 of these. Draw. 1, 2, 3. And now I take my action. Oh, wait, I don't. Hang on 1 second. I got to talk to them.
Sure.
I'm taking my once per game action on taking quorum cards. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the cards, and I draw 4 quorum cards. So 1,
I'm going to grab
2,
some more, guys. I'll be right
3, 4. So we got 4 quorum cards now, boys, and I get to pick one and dump the others. So we go to the cards, then we go here. What did I get? Anything that could save us? No. Okay, we got the card we want. Okay, this card.
Just in answer to your question, or I should say, Mike, no, he is human. He determined that earlier. You might have missed that part of the show. This is a variety show tonight.
Readers,
Interview, War Game Chat, and Battlestar Galactica.
That's right. Okay, so
I've never got to try one of those, but I've always wanted to try one. I've got the
Well,
secret Hitler one.
We know who the Cylon is. It's the
no,
guy
there's 3 Cylons, by the way.
No, Fango Wolf is saying, what else would a Cylon say? You mean Cylon?
Yeah.
Cylon.
Cylon.
Fango is the Cylon. He's trying to mislead us by spelling it wrong.
That's pretty funny, actually. Oh, this is no brainer. This card, this one. Hang on.
Tommy's playing Battlestar Galactica.
Who's the Admiral? Okay, so I'm pretty much done with my turn. It looks like so I reached deep into for guys that don't know Battlestar Galactica, I'm the Laura Roslin, and so I reached deep into the quorum deck, and I found a card that kills 3 raiders, which we're surrounded by Cylons right now. So killing 3 of them seemed to be a good idea at the moment. So we wiped out 3 of them, and 2 of them were about to wipe out our civilian ships. So I just saved all the civilian ships. So I think that was a good move, as good moves go. What was the next question you were asking me, Mo?
Well, we do have one here. Nathan is saying, learning Pacific War currently, but love Mark's France 1944 from Compass. Looking forward to Russia 1944. So what's the status on that one?
I bet you John Krantz is who's on wants to know the answer to that one.
Well, that was Nathan.
Yeah, Nathan said it, but John Krantz is on. He's going like, what's the answer to that one? So Bruce Garrick promised me 18 months ago he's going to do the Russian order of battle that I asked him to do for me, and he hasn't done it yet. So I'm going to have to go yell at him now that you remind. So Nathan, thanks for reminding me. I was so lost in the Pacific, I forgot to go to Russia. So I got to go back to Russia now.
Well,
nice.
what about more on the Waterloo system? Yeah, because that's a great little system. I know that you've obviously a derivative from the Civil War game.
Gettysburg.
Yeah, Waterloo is a much better expression of the Gettysburg game.
Yeah.
So in fact, I'm actually quite proud of that game. I actually play that game regularly because it just moves along, So thank you for that, Kev. So Rebel Fury is a derivative of Waterloo, not of Gettysburg.
Good.
And
Good. Okay.
and the game would be done by now. And this is a sad story. You all know who Rick Barber, if you didn't know him, was old. I mean, I've known Rick Barber for 30 years. And Rick was my map artist for the game and literally sent me a map on Thursday. I was talking to him on a Thursday. He mails me the maps. He dies from a massive heart attack, apparently. And the maps show up after I know that he's dead. That was really weird. So I have his last maps. Unfortunately, I was not able to then do the loop back and said, what were you doing when you did this? Because we can't have that conversation anymore. And so I'm redoing the Spotsylvania map. But as I'm sitting there, I'm kind of like, I want to do something. The combat system is that same one, and it's going to be very similar, but I decided I came up with an idea to make it a little bit more exciting. And so I'm going to make that change and then refurbish it, but it's done. I'm at like a 95% thing, but I'm going to go back 5% and kind of rework the combat numbers a little bit and how that I got an idea to do something fun, and then we'll go forward again.
That's interesting. What about, and so would you do additional Napoleonic battles, or are you going to focus specifically on ACW?
No. So I spent the last 2 years doing Pacific War. So the good news is Pacific War is done. Now everybody's, playing it. And I think overall people are happy. And a lot of people tell me, even though they're having a little bit of, mystery with 60,000 words of rules, which I can understand, they're having a good time. Right. Yep. And, people are, knocking out the engagement scenarios and the battle scenarios. I'm going to have it at GMT East, which is this coming Friday, and it's going to be all good. But first I want to get Rebel Fury out, and then I will feed back, I'll start to think through. I want to do the Peninsula battles using that system. I think it would work well. But I even have the books, and I've always wanted to do the Peninsula. So I'm going to go, the Napoleon 6, I'm going to go to the Peninsula, which I think is, there's not as many games on the Peninsula as there are all the other battles, the big ones. So I'm going to go focus on that. What happened?
Do something on the Amrev.
Not many games on the on Highloud.
President chooses.
That'd be one.
Okay, give me a second. I got to discard 2 cards.
A little modern slip here, as VT View from the Turret says, Kiev looks like he's been tanning, and then he corrects it to Kev.
Yeah, I think it's just the light. I think it's just the light in this room. I'm really not brown. So.
No, you actually do look a little darker there, Kev.
Really?
I think that system, though, would be good for
I'm
American.
32nd Aborigine. So.
I'm sorry, you were saying something, Mo?
I was going to say, I think that system, the Waterloo system, would be great with the American Revolution.
I think it would. I mean, it's basically a 19th, early to mid 19th century system, and certainly. Could you get in the late 18th? Mark, need your input on the crisis as president. Okay, hang on.
The job of the president never stops.
Hang on.
Yeah, which crisis in particular? Are we talking about the one in Ukraine or the one on the battlefield? Yeah.
I just told JR I discarded the 2 cards already. I thought they were paying attention, I'm paying attention. I saw it.
Stigler says, are you on location in Ukraine?
Are you on location in Ukraine, or what it looks like? You're a candlelight in a bunker. Yes, I am in a bunker.
That's funny.
So now just kind of going back real quickly on what you were saying about Pacific War before. You're figuring what, August? You said August timeframe, August, September. To compile all the errata and everything.
No. Let's go back. I've already put out one errata sheet.
Well, you had the one, yeah. But I mean,
one is coming. I literally got from Mark's Image while we were talking. Mm-hmm. I saw a notification that Mark's Image sent me the reformatted one for 1 April.
Okay.
The 1 April one is very close to the 1 March one, but it's got a few more items, and I'll keep doing that once a month. And I figure by after 4 months of that, everybody will have touched all of it. I'll see most of it. And then I'll get a hold of this guy named Justin Martinez, who did the scenario booklet, He'll clean all that up. It's going to be like 50. It'll take him an hour to fix it. And then we'll put out a PDF. And the rules, there's really not much in the rules. I mean, I'll be honest with you. The rules are in good shape. I mean,
sure.
People are going to go, I don't understand, but, I can't help. It's still a non-complexity game,
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make it drink.
That's exactly right.
Is really what it comes down to.
Yeah,
you can give all the tools.
Yeah, so we've done that, and like I said, the few counters that are wrong, which you don't need to play the game, but for those who want completeness, we will fix that at some point in the future. So at some point, it'll be all fine. But the most important thing is the scenario booklet will be the first thing, and that'll have to wait until like August. But like I said, it's all there, and you take a pencil and you're ready to go. And by the way, 90%, literally 90% of the scenario errata is the campaign scenarios that don't start on December 7th, which nobody's going to play. They're either going to start the whole war at December 7th because that's the best turn. But most of the errata is just these last three scenarios that start like in March, April, and May. There's just a lot of, little stuff in there that didn't get caught by the person who designed them, unfortunately. And I only could check them so much. And so they were designed by somebody else, and I should have paid more attention, and I didn't. So now I get to,
right? Stumpter? Was that Stumpter?
I'm not into like a whole lot of, you can figure it out, but like I said,
no, I'm just curious. I didn't know which. I haven't actually.
Yeah, but those scenarios, I guarantee, will never get played because if you were going to play the campaign scenario, you're going to do the whole thing. But we'll fix it all.
Well, those are all new ones, right? Because you added something like 10 scenarios to this version.
Correct.
Right?
But the battle scenarios, maybe there's 2 or 3 errors across all of them. Yeah. And that they're easy to fix. They're not anything big. Like I said, the campaign scenarios are the 95% of the, of whatever is mistakes, and those are just so dense. And in some cases, it's like it tells you like you need 6 steps of an F, L, and it doesn't tell you that you need a 0, 1, or 2 at the end of that didn't get noticed or something like that.
Well, aside from Pacific War, what have you been playing lately?
Oh, I just want to wait 1 second. Wait, I want to say that. I see that the Cylons have killed us. All right, well, it's been a pleasure, guys. And by the way, you've been streaming everybody's been streaming it. All the Cylons are so happy right now, those bastards. It's been a pleasure, gentlemen.
I have almost never seen a situation deteriorate so fast.
Yeah, it really went downhill fast. We had literally, there's like 25 Cylon raiders got in on top of the fleet and killed all the civilians. It's terrible.
It's the end of humanity as we know it.
Yeah, there's only 50,000 of us left, I think. So it was a terrible, terrible slaughter by the toasters.
Now you're gonna have to go adjust that little whiteboard that the president always has to.
It's like 0.
Yep. as you are the last person dying screaming. Well, there's no screaming in space. No one can hear you scream.
Yeah, no, I could. I'm shutting this off now, so I don't have to disturb them anymore. Okay, it's just me and you guys now. While I was doing, now I want to say, by the way, I didn't play badly given the circumstances because the bad part is all of the pilots, Starbuck and Apollo were the Cylons, and they were the only ones who could save us from 35,000 raiders. So
to be fair, you did say, just go ahead and put me in prison.
I did, but they didn't do it. They felt bad about that. They I'm a hot chick, and they just didn't want to go there.
So you got mercy freedom.
Oh, so this guy is looking through his PW box. He can't find any Cylon card. Well, then you need to look harder. I got to tell you Berg's story about long games. So he gets this letter from a guy who played the campaigns in North Africa, and he says, I played the game and it didn't come out right. So Berg goes, play it again and get back to me.
That'll get rid of it for about 4 years.
So to go back over the campaign game. So in the planet Earth, I have played the campaign game 5 times. Okay. I've had it for 35 years. I played it 5 times. 2 times recently, 2 times when I did the original, and once when I did Empire of the Sun. And the people who are critique, thinking it through, haven't even played it once, but they have a lot of opinions. I find that interesting. But so if anybody calls and says it didn't come out right, I said, play it again.
How long did it take you to play through the campaign or the full thing?
Well, remember, it was 2 years of COVID. So, I think the way to put it up is that the game was up for 2 years. I mean, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And, I played through the beginning a bunch of times but getting through the whole war is it's a grind. I mean, there's just, it's a team game. And because think about it, it comes a point where you have these massive American fleets and they're just, blasting the crap out of things, but it's like, you got to calculate all these command points. And I put in a couple of rules to slow the Americans down a little bit, because one of the problems again, you have to play the game even 5 times to figure this out. The Americans, it was going too fast. The Americans said, you know what, screw this MacArthur thing. I don't have any politics. I'm going to go straight for Japan, and the war ends too fast. So I said, okay, that's a problem. So I put in a rule, which everybody hates, by the way, so I know it's a good rule, is that if you ignore the Philippines, you lose like 60 command points a turn, which is not inconsequential. So you got to pay attention to MacArthur, or you're going to pay a penalty. And that, they think that's a horrible rule. Oh my God, I'll be restricted. But that's what stops you from doing this kind of, you can do it, but you got to do it on less command points. So you can still do it, but you will pay a price if you don't, feed the beast.
But you're kind of like forcing them into doing it historically, rather than just kind of giving them freedom to do it the way they want to do it. Maybe tone down the penalty a little bit. 40 points instead of 60.
I got to tell you something. I have a really, so we do, Jeff Engelstein and I do Versailles, and there's a solitaire thing. And if you got more than 10 victory points in the solitaire system, you won, right? The solitaire system. And we had this guy, Wendell, it's Wendell. I forget his last name at the moment. And Wendell kept getting 12 points, and he said, well, I keep beating it. I said, okay. So I go to Jeff, okay, now the victory point total we're going to put in the game is going to be 20. He goes, nobody's going to get 20. He goes, I know. Because what I hate is you put out a solitaire system. Remember, you're dealing with a piece of paper, right? So here's my solitaire system. You have a brain with, 3 or 4 billion neurons, and here's this piece of paper, and you can beat the piece of paper. Oh my God, you're so smart. So, and they gloat about it, and like, okay. So I made it so that, and I bet you somebody did beat it at 20, but not many. And I wrote a whole thing like, if you can't beat it at 20, you can lower the number. But I made it so high that, nobody was going to write me that note for quite a while. And I felt good about that.
Well, no, think about popular games, right? If you play video games, that
would be none of mine, by the way, but okay, I got that.
Like Europa Universalis 4 or Hearts of Iron, right? Stuff like that. Part of the reason those games are so popular is the fact that you can do ahistorical stuff, right? You can make America become Nazis and not need Casus Belli.
Not my favorite thought, but okay, good.
But you know what I'm saying, right? You can do something. It might be hard to do it in the game, but you have the ability to do it.
Okay.
That freedom of choice, I think, is what people enjoy about those games.
Sandbox.
Just my own.
That's a sandbox design. And I did that with I did that with Pericles. I've done that kind of thing before, but this is the Pacific War, so there's a certain amount of leeway I can give you,
right?
And clearly, you could read any. The only reason why we didn't go straight at Japan was politics. I mean, that's just, it was an Army and Navy. I mean, I've done more reading on the Pacific War than any other topic that I've ever, and I know a lot about it. And I've read all the political books and the military books and all that stuff. And, I pass that along. So I'm just here to tell you that if you don't bring in some part of the inter-service rivalry, you don't bring in part of the politics, you're going to, but the gamers are amazingly talented at min-maxing any problem. I mean, you give min-max problem to any group of gamers and they will figure out how to push that button to, push this way and push that way and look, oh, wow, I won. So you have to think a little bit along the lines of what, yes, you can play ahistorically. That's not a problem, but I have a penalty if you're allowed to do whatever you want. So I'm not saying you can't have, well, not Nazis in America, but you don't have to let MacArthur have his day. You don't have to do that. But somehow without his noise, those logistics are going to Europe. That stuff's not going to the Pacific now. It's going to Europe because there isn't a call for it. And there was always a big argument. I just did, by the way, for McGowan's coming out. The only thing he's waiting for is paper for the cards. I did a mini Burma game based on Empire of the Sun, right?
Yeah.
And what you realize when you kind of do a game just on that one little piece of the world is fun. A, it's fun, but B, no legit. It's a 1-to-1 odds battle, right? Two swords are about even, and so if you get too aggressive and you get hammered, now it's not a 1-to-1 battle; it's a 3-to-1 battle. You get killed real fast. So you got to be very careful about what you do. And they didn't have any amphibious lift. They didn't. The only thing they got a lot of was the transport aircraft because of the hump. And Churchill didn't want that. He fought it tooth and nail. But FDR said, "My planes, my rules." That was basically how that went. And so Burma got a lot of Dakota, with C-54 Dakotas and all that. Those planes flying the hump and all that stuff. And Chennault was yelling, "I can win the war with just bombers," which is of course ludicrous. But it was a cheap solution to shut Chiang Kai-shek up, which was fine. And Chiang Kai-shek, by the way, doesn't get enough credit. He tied down most of the Japanese army. There was like 1 million Japanese troops in China that never left. Can you imagine if those guys were in all the Pacific Islands?
Yeah,
that'd have been bad. And Stigler's got a question for you. How do you decide if a rule like Philippines rule is fair or restrictive? You can't ignore politics if it was a factor in real life, right?
Well, so here's the thing. I'm when it comes to a game, I'm the Supreme Court, right? So I have the last word. And, I played it. I thought about it. I did. And I also do a lot of, I get a spreadsheet and I work through some numbers, make sure I understand what I'm doing, because there's no way I'm going to play it enough times or anybody. And by the way, play testing, was at one time easier, but getting any group of play testers, they get very enthusiastic. You send them this stuff and you hear nothing. There's always a couple of guys, groups that get involved and they'll put in like 2 or 3 plays, but then, this guy, he had to go see his grandchildren and this guy had to work late, and we couldn't get it together. And what you get from play testing is okay, but not, and where the COVID's really hurt me not personally, like physically, but in fact, the guys I was playing Battlestar Galactica with is the guy, all my friends from Manhattan. And I'm going to see them this Friday, first time in person, like in 2 years. So this is very exciting for me. I love these guys, great guys. But when I used to go to this guy J.R. Tracy's house every Tuesday night, I had play testers, and I would sit there and play with guys who are really good gamers, and we had the game and we could test it, and I could see what they were doing, and that is valuable play testing because I observe. I'll observe and see what's going on, and what are they having troubles with, and and sometimes I'll be in a play test and nobody's doing like something I want them to do. So I'll go, tell you what, anybody who does that gets 10 victory points. Just because I want to see it happen. You get 10 victory points. What? 10 victory points? I'll do it. There you go. So I have to be there sometimes just to see how that mechanic might work. And I don't have the right incentives yet, but I want to see if the mechanic even works. And I just bribe the hell out of them. I said, I'll tell you what. If you do that, I'm going to get you a drink. How you like that?
Well, should that tell you something, though? If, like, none of the people are playing it the way you want them to play it?
No. Nate, I'm not. I got a mechanic, and I haven't got the right min-max structure yet. In other words, I haven't given them enough incentive to do it, but it's historical and it's kind of cool. Now, I might take it out later, but I just want to see it work. And so if I go to a gamer and say, let's do a simpler one, like, you're in a CDG. You all played at least one card-driven game in your life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. I give you a card, and it's got a value of 3, right? And the event really sucks, right? It's not even that interesting an event. So what are you going to do? You're going to play for the 3 card of the shitty event. You're going to play for the 3 card, right? So now I say, okay, the problem is I need this event in the game, but the 3, it's not a good min-max problem for the player. So now I'm going to make it a 1. Now it's a 1 card with the event. Also, the event looks real good. So now the event happens, or it's a better choice. See what I'm trying to say? So the incentive structure is not that maybe the game sucks. Believe me, most of my games do. But, I want them to just try it. And sometimes you have to understand how they're min-maxing the problem, because gamers are amazing at that. And so the fact that I didn't get the min-max right on the first try doesn't mean it's a bad mechanic. It just means I haven't given them enough incentive to make it work. And and by the way, after it works, I might say, yeah, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze, and I just get rid of it. I've done that many times, but you got to see it in action before you decide to do that.
Plus, you want to see them play to see how they're playing the game, because there'll be some guys that'll sit there and analyze. They're min-maxing, and then you'll have the other people like me, like, hey, I'm just going to run right up the middle and start swinging. And that's the different play styles too. That is an important part of playtesting, because you want to see, what, hey, that guy just showed me by running up the middle that I thought was a bad idea. It's actually a good idea. It did work. So maybe I need to look at something over there.
Well, I also have, for sure, Berg used to have something called Brog. Berg's review of games, is called Brog. And there was he had found this guy who was a really good illustrator, had some cool cartoons. And I don't like reviewing other people's games, because, if I say something, they say, well, you're being critical and you suck, but anyway, a long time ago. So Berg said, you got to do a review for me. I said, okay, fine. So I'm very analytical generally. So there's a really great game called Mechanicao, which was a gamers. Dean Essig is one of my favorite designers. He's also a very good friend of mine. And I love his battalion combat system. Best one I've ever seen, in best game system for that kind of level I've seen in 50 years. So I play all of them. And in fact, on version 2 of the rules, I was interacting with them, and I was playing with those rules and giving them feedback. And I just bought Aracore. I love that system. So great system. So my only point is that Berg would make. So I did Mechanicao, and it's a Mechanicao is I guess I don't want to call it a word rib, but it's a creek in Guadalcanal. That was the boundary between the Japanese lines and the perimeter of Henderson Field for a period of time. And there's a number of interesting battles between, the 228th Regiment and, the Marines, I think it's the 5th Regiment, whatever it is. But there's a bunch of really interesting tactical battles there. And going back to your point, Mo, I always look at a game and I do what I call the Pickett's Charge methodology, just to test. I just want to learn. So my basic view is, if I take a bunch of guys and I charge machine guns and I don't get annihilated, there's probably something wrong with the game. Yeah. But if I get annihilated, I go, okay, now I'm interested. I'll try something else now. So I try the things that shouldn't work first.
Right.
Make sure they don't work, and then there may be a game here. If I can do weird stuff like that and it works, then play tested dumb strat. Yeah, I agree with that point. Steve Jackson. I haven't seen Steve in forever, but yes, he's correct. You want to try. I never forgot. I remember Great Battles of History was believe it or not, was a computer game at one time. And my son Grant, who's now a father, soon to be, of 2 children, who's 30, going to be 31. When he was 4, I used to get the new versions of the PC game from these guys in Utah, and I would take Grant, and he loved the elephants, and I would just tell Grant, play the game, and he would, and I just would watch where he clicked. And he could crash the program in under 2 minutes every single time. He was a 4-year-old with a button, and he knew how to use it. He goes, go, make the elephant go. The elephant's not going. It's not going fast enough. And then the computer goes boom. So I would write up a report and say, look, when you click on the elephant, it gives you a zone where you can move it to, and you have to click within the zone. He kept clicking somewhere else, and it would crash the program. I said, well, why would anybody do that? I said, just fix it. Don't think about it too hard. Right. Just make it so that I click outside of the zone, it doesn't crash the program each time. And so Grant was one of the best he could crash. And when he couldn't crash the program, it was very stable.
Yeah, we called making something marine proof, because if it could be done, it would be done.
There you go. So I wouldn't have made that connection, but you're a Marine, you can do what you want. So
yeah, there's a reason claymores have front towards enemy prominently displayed on them.
Now here's the big thing. If it was a gamer looking at it, they want to know, now, where's the front? Is it this side or that side?
Yeah.
It's not clear to me where the front thing is. Is the front part supposed to be facing towards me? Or
define enemy. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
You
gamer,
know,
there's a lot of errata on claymores, but the good news is once you screw it up, there's no more. That guy's not asking questions anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
whereas the Marines going, oh, front toward enemy. Let me see. You know, hey guys, what do you think this looks like when it goes off? Let's find out. Clack. Smile, wait for the flash. I mean, that's about all you're going to get out of that. But, you know, that is the Marine mentality. But so what else have you been playing aside from your games and Battlestar Galactica? That you've been,
actually,
anything new that you've been enjoying?
Let me just think for the answer is yes. I just got to think. I've been playing. You guys know who Jason Matthews is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Jason Matthews is a good friend with Kevin Bertram, who's also a friend of mine. He did,
Shores of
Tripoli.
George, yeah.
So I get this, text message with Volko on it, and me, and him, and somebody else, and all designers. And he says, "I want you to be on my team for this Fort Circle tournament."
The tournament.
And I go, and I don't. And to be quite frank, I've never played the game until the other day. I've now played officially 4 cards across 2 games, so that's my experience with Fort.
Nice.
And I go to Jason and says, "So does Kevin have like blackmail pictures on you? What's the story?" So he writes back to me, "I do it for the chicks." I said, "Oh, we're getting girls. Oh, cool." So no, it's not true either, by the way. So I'm doing, so I'm playing. So I say yes to this thing. I don't know what the hell I'm saying yes for. So I've been playing that. So I have to say I'm very pleased with myself. I had some guy bribed I brought Tunis and Morocco into the war. He killed the Moroccans somehow, but he had to bribe the Tunisians. And then I launched a pirate raid. So I'm already up to 6 gold on 2 cards. So that's good.
Nice.
12 wins the game. So yeah. I'm halfway home on 2 cards. So I'm feeling good. Just going to hope the dice love me and I can get there.
It's a short game, so you got to work out.
And then I've been playing, I've been playing Burma. I mean, I like Burma. And I took some pictures of, and I'm getting, but mostly been playing Pacific War because I got to be bringing the kind. I've been playing Triumvir. We've been playing with Jeff and guy Ken Kuhn, who's our developer. But there's another game. Oh, Dune, but not the old Avalon Hill one, the new one.
The new one. Yeah,
it's kind of cool. I like that game. I finally somebody had some weirdo sale where I got Gloomhaven for like $28 or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
like the actual Gloomhaven game, not the city building one.
The coffin box, literal coffin.
For $28, that's a steal.
My wife comes in, she goes, "There's a box outside. I can't move it."
Yeah, that would be
that's
Gloomhaven.
I went, what? And I actually went through. Some guy did these tutorials. Thank you, Kabuki. Dune Imperium. I do, and it's what it is. It's a dungeon crawl game, which is fun. There was a game called Hero Quest. You ever hear this game, Hero Quest?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just got the new version of it.
Oh, so I have the original, and my son, when he was like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old, loved that game. So we played every scenario twice, and so I kind of think Gloomhaven is kind of a quasi version of. Is a quasi version of that game. Hero Quest, kind of fun. Nice. And what else? I think that's been about it lately. Yeah,
I'll tell you what. If you like Gloomhaven, I always talk this one up. Make sure you check out Core Space if you're into sci-fi stuff.
Oh yeah, what's it called?
Core Space.
You mean CORPS?
No, CORE, like core, like the inside of something.
Oh,
Space. Okay. It's made by a company called Battle Systems.
All right, wrote it down.
Yeah, one of my favorite miniatures games of all time. It's real good. They just had a Kickstarter release, the newest version of it. So there's a couple of different versions, just depending on what you're into. But real cool game.
Oh, hey Mike, how you doing, buddy?
Saying Candy Grail all-in Kickstarter is close to £50, so it's even bigger than Pacific War. It makes
Pacific War is only 10. Only 10. That's as much paper as I can produce. Oh, hello.
Well, I got the little one in.
Someone, okay. Mommy has vanished or something, and he came out to say hello. Say hello and go.
He
One
wants to get
second.
on the air.
Hi,
Hi.
guy.
Hi.
Hello, how are you? And what's your name?
Bradley.
Hi, Howard. Nice
I'm
to meet you.
7
I'm
years
Mark.
old.
Yes, you are.
When are you going to be 8?
November 23rd, 2022.
Nice. There you go. Now you got to tell Daddy he's got to go buy you a toy.
All right, tell him bye. There you go. Love you, buddy.
Oh, that's cute. Yeah, I got these. I got 2 granddaughters. Soon going to be 4. It looks like. Well, I don't know if they're. Well, one's a grandson for sure. The new one is. I have no idea. I'm not even officially been told yet, so we're going to just ignore that for now. But the 5-year-old is hysterical, and the 2.5-year-old speaks beautifully. So I like being
teaching her
grandpa.
chess. You're teaching her chess too.
Didn't you see my tweet? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually teaching my little boy that now. The one that was just on. We were playing earlier today. He's getting a kick out of it.
Yeah, no, chess is a great thing. I mean, I learned it at about his age, or maybe a little bit younger. 6, 7 years old is when I learned to play chess. I run the Marshall Chess Club building. I run the building for the Marshall Chess Club in Manhattan. It's great. I find chess has a lot of value just in thinking process. But what's interesting is how the original Charles Roberts games are. It's like in chess, the key is how do you create these combinations by moving every other move? Like you get one move at a time, right? And I make a move, you make a move, and the better player kind of gets their pieces in the right place. And all of a sudden, bang! They're jumping all over you and they're wiping you out, and checkmating you and all that. Whereas in games, the Charles Robert thing was I get to move all my pieces to make the combination. So the combination was the thing about the early games that was so fun. You get to move all some or none of your pieces, right? And so you could do all these kind of cool maneuvers and then roll some dice. And, it's kind of interesting, that evolution. But, we've moved beyond that. But the roots are definitely there back in I met him twice, by the way, Charles Roberts. He was an interesting guy. He was the kind of guy who goes, get off my lawn. He was that kind of guy.
Have you been on the Avalon Hill? I believe there's a couple of places, War Gamers, and then the Avalon Hill group on Facebook. The interesting thing is Joanne Roberts, his daughter, has found that place, and she's been posting a lot of pictures and things like that. And one of the cool things that she found in one of the old games was the hand-drawn map for tactics.
Oh, wow. That's kind of cool. Yeah.
And I was like, that's a pretty awesome piece of war game history right there.
Yeah. No, I wrote my last column went over, oh no, excuse me. Nobody's seen it yet. It's in the new version. It's a new issue of C3I, but my whole column is about the evolution of the sequence of play. And
nice.
I went back to tactics, and and I came up with it's my conclusion that 1961 in Chancellorsville is the first time that a sequence of play that you would recognize as a sequence of play actually existed in 61.
Wow. And the funny thing is CRTs, the sequence play, all that stuff are still around. Now they've, evolved and they've changed a little bit, but all that stuff has proven to be good, mechanically. Yeah. So it's still in use, and it's because it works.
Yeah, it does. I've become the favor, so like when I did Empire of the Sun, so we all know what a bag of dice, combat system is. You throw a lot of dice, you get a 5 or a 6 or whatever the number is, you get a hit, right? So you get 12 dice, you boom, and I got, how many 6s do you get? How many 5s do you get? That kind of thing. And that's cool. But see, my problem is if I could throw 30 dice and I needed a 6, I could roll none. I would get all 5s and above. And that always pissed me off. So when I did Empire of the Sun, I created a bag of dice system, except that I did it on one die roll, and there was a guaranteed bottom to how badly you could do. Mm-hmm. And so that was what I did with Empire of the Sun. So it's a bag of dice, but just one dice.
Yeah.
One die.
That's pretty cool. Gav, did you have something else? I think you were looking to jump in on something.
No. I mean, I've got 2,000 little funny things I'd love to swap with Mark, but we can talk about.
I'll tell you what. Let's do this. What is your favorite question you always wanted to ask me? And it could be anything, and I'll see if I'll answer.
What is your favorite color?
Remember, this is a family show.
Oh, that's okay. I doubt that it's a family show, but
No. I just I'm curious about the volume of games that you work on at any one time. So are you a linear from that perspective, or do you have sort of a pipeline going on? How does that work? Because you're writing a book.
Mm-hmm.
You write columns. You obviously were busy, very busy professionally, and then you have the game design stuff. So just tell us a little bit about that, about your workflow and your process there, and how you go about things. And
yeah, so I have at any given time, there are these yellow stickies all around here. Do you prefer red or blue pieces? That's funny.
Deep questions.
Yeah, it's a good question. The answer to that question is whichever one my granddaughter doesn't want to play is the one I take. Sometimes blue, sometimes red. It just depends on their mood. But I have about a dozen games that are I have a list, and every so often one of them wants to be born. I don't know why. It just all of a sudden it just I say, oh, that's how I could do that, and then I zoom down that path. Is what kind of now zooming down the path is a relative term. I move down that path where I actually write a set of rules. So for me, it's not a game until I have a set of rules. Like some people just like to have a sketch of it and they play it and then they work on it. I mean, I do some of that, but once I've gotten past, that's like one day of time. Putting a couple pieces on the board and shoving them around and seeing what that does. But then I write a whole set of rules. And when I write a set of rules, there's a game there. I'll know it when I finish writing the set of rules.
Right.
That's pretty much what I do. And right now, there are 3 games that have a set of rules. So if I put it that way, Triumvirate has a set of rules. Rebel Fury has a set of rules. I mean, a real set of rules. And this game called Mahan, which nobody knows about, has a set of rules. So those are the games right now.
Nice. And then John had a question in here, otherwise known as Ken T. Something I've always wanted to ask Mark, how did it occur to you to use cards in wargaming, specifically the CDG mechanic, which he loves, by the way?
Well, thank you. So the funny thing is, so let's ignore the card-driven thing for a moment. I was doing Eric Dott, who may he rest in peace, who was the head of Monarch Avalon Hill. He owned Avalon Hill, but he also owned the printing company that owned Avalon Hill. Eric, I was working, not in the game business per se. I was just a freelancer, and he calls me up, and I won't imitate him. And he said he wanted a American Revolution, introductory American Revolution game. That's what he wanted. Okay. Fine. I took the commission. They sent me a contract. So then I went down and I did a game. So basically I did a version of 1776, cities and troops moving around and all this kind of stuff. And I was at Victory Game. I was in a city, and I went to the 42nd Street Library. Is a very serious library in Manhattan, and they have a rare books division. And because I was able to finagle my way in, there was a book I wanted to read by this guy named Lieutenant John Simcoe. Did you guys ever see the series Turn?
Yep. Oh yeah, love that show.
Sure.
Yeah, so John Simcoe is well represented. He's a real person, and after the war, and by the way, he eventually became the governor of Canada, and he was the first person in the Western Hemisphere to free slaves. He emancipated the slaves. So it's a total animal in the battlefield, but kind of very unusual guy. But anyway, the point is, he wrote a memoir of the American Revolution, and I got to read the original, written in 1787 out of London. It was a small, and I got to read the original in, actually had the real book, and I read it, and I took notes. And the American Revolution that he described, I had never heard about. It was a counterinsurgency coin kind of war. And so I threw away the first design, which was finished, and I did an area control game. And it was, you've seen the game, so with the control markers and all that stuff. And and you had like moves back and forth, and I had these random events. And one day I was just sitting there looking at it and saying, if I can tie these die rolls to those cards, I can just and that's how it happened. So so the numbers on the cards were effectively die rolls, and the events were the events that were I wanted to put into this table. And now all of a sudden I had it set. And the other thing was cards, because of Magic the Gathering, cards had become available it was easier to get cards. If you look at the SPI and the Victory Games use of cards, they were crappy. They were like, they were perforated cards.
Yes.
You would get, they weren't cards. They weren't cool. So I was able to get real cards. Avalon Hill, Monarch Avalon could make real cards, or I don't know how they made them. Maybe they sourced them out. I don't know, but they could make real cards. And, there you were. So I had, and so it was really that just kind of that process got me to and then I didn't think of it as a card. I didn't invent the term. It was invented by Gene Billingsley as a marketing term, and everybody focuses on the cards, but it was really an area control game that had cards to me. So that's the answer to whoever wrote the question.
It was Ken T.
Ken T. Yeah.
Ken T. Really,
Nate, your question?
Not as much a question, but I will say he's the one that sent me down the bad path of trying to complete a collection, because I'm still working on my Great Battles of History series. But yeah, that's one of my absolute favorites. I've almost got them all, but I've lost a couple of bidding wars a few times.
What are you missing?
I'd have to go look at the collection.
Send me a note. I have, like particularly the old modules, like Tyrant and that stuff. I got a bunch of copies sitting around of that crap all over the place. Elephant.
I think that might be one. No, I got the Chapta Gupta or
Chandragupta. That was a Berg special.
Yeah, Devil Horseman, Alexander. I think SPQ might be one I'm missing. I'd have to check, but I've got a bunch of them. Yeah, you sent me a.
Good news. Yeah, send me a list. But SPQR is coming back into print for sure. I think
they're doing another edition. Yeah.
Yeah. How involved were you with the simple Great Battles of History?
Well, so you have to understand the relationship between me and Richard Berg. We were like, blood brother friends. I mean, I met him when I was in college, and he came into a room at the first Origins. We I don't know what it was, but we just got each other. He could talk a mile a minute, and I like listening, and he just cracks me up. I mean, that was just, and his wife liked my wife, which is probably the most important thing. So once the women like each other, then all works, right? That's the basic rules. And then we started doing game. We did this Great Battles of History system together. So the simple battles, he one day, I mean, literally, he sends me this thing and says, "Hey, I did a new rules set I want to put out." I said, "Okay." I mean, that was pretty much. I had zero to do with the simple battles of great. He just sat down and wrote it one day, and we put it in a book, and everybody liked it. So they liked the original system, they liked the new system, and I think that gave a lot of legs to it because people had options.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, that's how I got started in it.
Yeah. I was going to be patting you on the back for it because that really expanded my love of the series.
No,
I was like, well, screw you, I don't care.
I'd be honest with you. I'm very truthful, but and certainly last thing I'm going to do is take credit for something my good friend did. No, that was all Berg. That was all Berg. Like I said, I was working a full-time job. At one time I had 6,000 people working for me, so I was a very busy guy. Mm-hmm. And Berg one day sends me an email with this set of rules, and I just said, "Great, let's do it." What the hell? And so that's pretty much how it happened. So no, that was all him.
No, that was great. That he did outstanding with that because it was harder for me to get the games to the table before that came out, and once I got that, it really opened it up because it was a much easier rule system.
Yeah, plays faster.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Plays faster. Yeah. Everything worked well. I just love it, man.
So we will give full credit to my old deceased friend. That's a Richard Berg special, and you owe your love for GBH not to me because I whatever I did wasn't good, but he was a genius, so he did good stuff. So
Well, no, you're part of the game series. I wouldn't have something to love if you weren't, there with it.
I will tell you. So you got to remember. Let's go back to this. You're in diapers still, Nate. Nothing personal. 1985, right? And I'm at Victory Games, and I leave in '87, right? And now I'm living in Washington, and Berg's got this company called Simulation Design Incorporated, I think SDI or something like that. I don't remember. It was, he did a couple of games. He did his own publishing company, and he calls me up. He says, "I want you to do a game for me." I said, "Okay, fine, I'll do a game for you." So I do the original Alexander in the yellow box. I don't know if you've ever seen that one. And I did the whole original system that the whole series is based on. And Berg was in New York. I was in Washington. And then I get a note from him saying, I sold you into indentured servitude to this guy named Gene Billingsley from GMT Games. I didn't even know who GMT Games was. And they got the contract, and I'm doing it for them. Okay, fine. So I had already finished the game. And he was going bust or something. So then it was this guy named Ted Kohler, who was an artist from Victory Games, and it was Gene. So basically, Berg's in New York, I'm in Washington, Ted's in Florida, Gene's in Hanford, California, and we're interacting, mail back and forth. We're using Genie Network, which was at the time became AOL eventually, and so we're doing all this stuff. And then I get to this convention, and they hand me a box in shrink wrap. I hadn't seen it since it was paper and words. And I was just stunned that I just did a game where I never met anybody in person. I never went to the printer. Like when I was at SPI, it was like everybody was like right there. We were on top of each other. We were yelling and screaming and doing stuff. I was in the art department, and Redmond would go, "What the hell are you doing?" And Manny's yelling, and Dunnigan's yelling. Everybody was yelling. It's New York, so everybody was yelling. And then then I go down to the printer and with Manny, and Manny was yelling, and everybody was yelling. So and games got published. And that's how that was my experience. And now all of a sudden it's quiet. There's typing. There's nobody sees anybody. There's no Zoom yet, so there's no using telephones. By the way, telephones you go like this. And then all of a sudden,
I played with one of those when I was a kid, by the way.
There you go.
Yeah.
I remember. I still have. I'll go to that in a second. And I get to this convention, and somebody hands me a box, and it's all done. And I'm like, "Oh, Roger McGowan was in Malibu, and he did the counters." I mean, it's like, "Are you kidding me?" It's crazy. And by the way, there's a family house in Cape Cod. There are 2 rotary phones that are voice over IP rotary phones, and nobody knows how they work. The technician goes, "This is not supposed to work, but there must be somewhere deep in the code that this works somehow because we plugged it in and it worked, and it's a rotary phone. It's like and the phones was on the wall so long that metal plate has fused to the phone. I tried to. Yeah. I literally was going to change the phones. I'm like 6'1". I weigh 215 pounds, and I put my hands on her. I'm pushing straight up with my legs. It's attached to the house. So I'm going to have to sledge it off. I'm going to have to sledge it off the house. This, one of those old kitchen phones. And the guy goes, "Wait, let's just see. Let me hook it up. Hook up the wires. It may just work." I'm going, "What? It's going to work?" I said, "Okay, fine." So he hooks up the wires and get a dial tone, and it works. And it's been working now that was probably 30 years ago. And so the phone was put in around 1960. Since my wife was 60, so it's 50 years old. The phone still works. Remember Six Sigma, AT&T, no manufacturing defect. It's still working. 50 years later, it's a rotary phone over the internet.
See, you guys built stuff to last.
Right? Yeah, if only we could have that today.
I didn't build anything. Those boys knew how to build a telephone. I'll give them that.
Well, I got one last question for you before we wrap things up, and it's a real simple one. You've alluded to it already, talking about your game, not your game, your book. And if you can talk about that at all, if you can share any of that, that'd be really cool. What's it about, and when do you think it's coming out?
All right, so it's a love story. No,
a love story about a man and his dice.
I couldn't even say that with a straight face. It's a game. It's a book about my method for doing game design. It is I call it war game design according to Mark. Like World According to Garp. I'm just trying to. It may be the final title. I don't know, but that's what I'm using. And it's just I realized one day that I had already written 60,000 words for C3I. Not that it's going to be just those articles again, but I've kind of covered all the topics in some manner over the last decade. So I starting off with 60,000 words of thinking. That's not the book, but I can now organize my thoughts around that. And I'll write a book and hopefully I'll finish it by December.
Nice. And you're going to self-publish, or you got a publisher for it, or how's that?
So there's an English guy who will publish the book. He's already told me he would, and it's a print on demand kind of situation. I told him that, so I have an option to I do have a publisher for it per se, but I also there's a place here in, I'm not in Manhattan, but not too far from here is Manhattan. In Manhattan, there's a place called Shakespeare's, and it's at right where, Hunter College is, and they print books. You give them a manuscript, they'll print the book. So I'm not sure yet. I mean, it's a modern world. Getting a book published is trivial. Writing the book is the hard part, but getting it published,
not like it was 20, 30, 40 years ago at all.
No, but
so can we see you on a book tour down in Texas?
We'll I gotta be honest with you. I might get. I'm going to be starting to, I'm all boosted and vaccinated and all this crap, and now that I got these antivirals around, I'm not worried about dying anymore, so that's cool. At least from that, I'm going to die, but not from that. Right. So I'm going to go to this game convention in a couple of days, and I told Gene Billingsley that the first time I'm probably going to get on a plane is going to be to go to GMT West in like October, maybe. So I told him but it all depends on, a lot of circumstances. I was going to go to WBC this year, but I got this grandson showing up exactly on the day of the convention. And my wife's been very clear that you will be here to back me up with the other granddaughters. I said, okay. So that wasn't really optional at that point. So that's how that goes. So I will be a family grandpa, on July 25th is when this kid's supposed to show up. Who knows when he's going to show up.
Wow, right before my birthday. Awesome.
Oh, yeah. What's your birthday?
29th.
You know how babies are. They show up when they show up, So it could be the 29th.
Mine all came early. They were always a week or two early at least.
Yeah, I think August was who was the first one of this mother. Hi, Mike. Good. I would look forward to seeing you. This mother, my first, who had the first August, who's the one in the chest picture. That's August, by the way. She's 2.5. She was only maybe 3 days early. So, I think that this kid, if genes and circumstances are the same, this kid will be probably in the July 20 something frame, but we'll see. Yeah.
Look on the bright side. You get to give them back, right? Mine are still here.
Let me tell you.
Day in, day out.
And I know I've seen Kev's son before, so I know what he's. I'm sure I saw one time they were mad at each other on one of the broadcasts, so I got that. But see, what you realize later on, Nate, and I'll pass this along, is the reward for not killing them when they're young is you get grandchildren.
Yeah, but I always keep that. What's that saying in your mind? Spoil your kids, raise your grandkids, something along those lines. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah. I got to tell you, with my daughter, who, by the way, I love that girl, and she's fantastic. But when she was a teenager, I think one day she really, she was 14 or something, and sent me, when you were going to kill your son, I saw you one time. But she's a girl, so you can't hit them. Boy, I might have dumped them through the wall, but with a girl, I wasn't going to do that. And I called my mother up, and I said, "Mom, I'm sorry." She goes, "For what?" I go, "For everything."
Everything.
Puts it in perspective.
And she goes, and she just cracked up. She goes, I said, "Oh, is Lara acting up?" I said, "Oh yeah."
Oh yeah, yeah. I've been blessed with 3 boys and no girls, so that's my lucky day right there. So they're all good lads, but some days they're not.
Look, I will tell you the one thing I have discovered though, there's what's that old saying, a girl, yours for life, a son is son until they take a wife or something like that, So girls are they love their daddies. And, if if I could be, I will never be homeless or in an old age home with my daughter. She'll take care of me forever. My son would be like, fuck, I'm getting rid of him. Kick him to the curb. I'm done with him.
There's a pasture over there. We can dump him there.
Just put him over there, throw him some food. He'll be fine. My daughter would never let that happen. So
sit in the corner, old man, and roll those dice and shut the hell up. Yeah.
That's right. You got it, man. That's exactly what's going to happen, buddy.
Hey, the sooner you're gone, the sooner that inheritance hits, right?
Oh yeah, believe me. Yeah, my goal is that I'll bounce the last check as they kick me into the ground. That's my plan.
Hey, that's a good plan. I'll tell you what, my little girl's got me wrapped. She's already got me figured. She's 2 years old, and she'll pull the daddy and.
Oh yeah, and you think that's going to get better?
Oh no, she gets whatever she wants. She just asks and she just gets it. And she's like, "Well, you don't do that with our boy." And I'm like, "Well, he's a boy. I got to raise him to be a man." My
Suck
little girl.
Up, Buttercup.
That's funny.
She's just got to ask.
Oh yeah.
Well, thanks a lot.
All right, my pleasure. Thanks for the time.
I was going to say thanks a lot for joining us, Mark. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure. It's been fun, just messing around, and I hope the Battlestar Galactica thing wasn't too disruptive, but it was amusing.
That was another dimension.
I just thought it would be. I'm into doing stupid, crazy things at this point in my life, so that seemed like for as things go, that wasn't too bad.
Well, the funny thing is when you messaged me about that, you're like, I got a Battlestar Galactica game. Is that going to be a problem? And I was like, well, I've seen you play South Pacific against 12 people at once or 14 people or whatever it was in San Diego. I think you can handle both, so not a problem.
I got to tell you something, by the way. I was never that mentally exhausted in my entire life.
I remember.
Oh my God, that is a lot harder than it looks.
Yeah, you made it look easy. But
didn't feel
that was
easy.
funny watching you up and down. It was like, Bobby Fischer type thing. That was kind of neat.
Well, that was the inspiration, obviously.
Yeah. It was pretty cool. But again, thanks a lot for having.
Anyway, if you guys ever get your way up to New York, let me know, and we'll play some games, Kev.
Yeah, definitely.
Love to.
And we will see you next time, guys. We've got another show Friday night. We got Mitch Land on. We're going to be talking about Next War and about modern war design. So it should be a pretty interesting show. And we will see you guys.
We're not going to talk about Ukraine or slim and none.
Well, that's
the purpose.
That will be some of the thing of it. Yeah. But we will see you guys on Friday night. Thanks a lot for tuning in tonight, guys. Have a good night, everybody.